There are moments in games, animes, or stories where characters rise to the occasion and become heroes. Heroes are people who meet the challenges they face with, and they face them head on, mostly scraping by with a win. Those are heroes. Badasses are a completely different breed of people who do whatever the fuck they want and no one can stop them. Badasses take on entire armies, push their limits beyond what's capable to set the bar at an extreme high for those who think they can take them on. And the biggest aspect of being a badass is getting a reputation that instills fear of all those who are unfortunate enough to face them. Rolling in 3, 2. So this is the list of the biggest badasses that ever were, in my opinion. Naturally, this is my list and my opinion. So to me, these are the do-all, end-all badass characters. Are they actually the biggest badasses? No. I haven't played every game, watched every anime, read every book, etc. So if you think of someone I forgot or looked over, please let me know in the comments below so I can enjoy epic tales of true badasses. Also, I'm limiting 1 entry per franchise, just to be fair. Alright, so ranking it at number 10. Number 10. Ranking it at number 10 is Doomguy. Now just look at all this carnage that Doomguy has wrought. Single individual fighting against legions of hell, multiple times, and not only winning, but instilling fear in demons. Demons. He made demons afraid of him. Now, I haven't played a Doom game in my life, but Doomguy is in no doubt a badass, and he deserves to be on this list. I may not play a Doom game, but I know a badass when I see it, even if others don't. Much like number 9. Largely revered as a hero, Sir Daniel Fortescue has proven his badassery in the medieval game. Not only does he have an arsenal of weapons that he uses to level the armies of the undead, but he even forces the other heroes to respect him after all of his work. Never mind the fact that he's just bones doing this. No muscle, just bones. A skeleton wielding magic weapons saving the world. It's a good thing he doesn't have to use his brain to be cunning, because there's probably nothing in there. On the topic of brains though, number 8. Alright, so I might be biased for this entry of the franchise, because I love redheads. Sorry, Morgan. But this ginger isn't one to be messed with. Liliana was trained from a young age to be a spy and an assassin. Rather called a bard for misleading titles. What that means is she can kill you in 11 different ways with just 1 dagger. Now that's terrifying, but what really makes Liliana a badass is that she runs an entire spy network, and she's unmatched in doing so. A mix of brain, brawn, and beauty makes Liliana a very lethal badass. Killing isn't the only thing badasses do. Number 7. So right away, most of you know where I'm going with this. But since we're talking about true badasses, then Kamina belongs on the list. In his time in Gurren Lagann, he inspires a movement, a revolutionary war, allying those who were once thought to be enemies in the common purpose of defeating a common goal. In his adventures, he's helped those who desperately needed it. More so, he was a leader for all of them. But not all badasses get to live to tell their tales. May you rest in peace. Number 6. So while making my list, I noticed something. A recurring trait. I fucking dig sword wielders. Fucking cool. I think all that can be traced back to one of the first video games I've ever played. Mega Man X introduced me to the badass that is Zero. Now if you haven't seen Egoraptor Sequelitis, I provide a link down in the description, so go watch it. Not only that, but Zero does make the ultimate sacrifice to save Mega Man. X. I still don't understand why they changed the name. He even has a Ghost spin-off series where he not only helps the Reploid forces grow, but protects them. But he battles with his own personal weaknesses and overcomes them throughout the games as well, in the form of a 3-tiered boss fight, as you do in these games. Now, up until this point, all the badasses have been adults, or androids in the form of adults. But now it's time for a kid to upstage these chumps. Number 5. Alright, so before I ever played Borderlands, I was aware of the web series called Hey Ash, What You Playin', and I love it. So imagine my surprise while playing Borderlands 2 when I hear a very familiar voice coming out of this destructive little badass. Tiny Tina has saved numerous main characters many times, and she's just someone who's doing what they do and making a giant spectacle while they're at it. Tiny Tina is a demolitions expert in a game where all you do is destroy shit. She's more than a force of nature. She's a force of destruction and bravery. Not only that, but she also formed the best DLC content for one of the better games of all time, in a Dungeon and Dragon parody, Bunkers and Badasses. You can also find the origin of Tiny Tina and how she got to be where she's at, and how she's overcome a harsh planet as just a child. I can only hope that when the next Borderlands game gets released, that she has a bigger role, because I can only imagine how much more of a badass she'll be given time to grow. Speaking of growing throughout numerous years, Number 4, Alucard. He is the vampire, the immortal badass vampire. I don't care what you say, but when someone asks me what a vampire is, I will point them in the direction of Alucard. Not only brutal when it comes to fighting, but he eats most of his enemies. He eats them.
Bitch, I eat people!
Look at this shit. Look at all this shit that he can do when he tries. No amount of preparation can help you in fighting him. Alucard is a badass who gets stronger the longer he's in a fight. Unless you can wipe him out early, he's going to clean house. All those who get in his way die, and he instills fear into those who cross his path in a very similar manner to Number 3. Originally, I planned on making Big Boss number 1, until I realized that Big Boss was stuck in the land of Earth, limiting his badassness compared to number 2, who's in an anime, and number 1, who's in a fantasy video game. But if the only reason he lost to them is because he's limited in the human world, then goddamn, he is a monster among men, even super special and supernatural men. Big Boss's time to shine is in the game Metal Gear Solid 3, during which he infiltrates the Soviet Union to prevent a nuclear launching machine, something that was unheard of because it was just a massive, mobile, nuclear launching device. Not only does he take care of that, but he also exterminates the Cobra unit, which was headed by the mother of tactical forces and his former teacher, called the Boss. After the fight with the Boss, he's given the title of Big Boss and the Legendary Soldier. But he leaves the military behind and joins which would become later known as the Patriots, and he becomes the leader of them too. And the Patriots, who by the 1990s controlled the United States of America. But it doesn't stop there. He also set up his own group, which would be labeled as an international peace force, with a few hitches here and there, but he does set it up. Finally comes his last moment of being a badass. He set up a phantom of himself, i.e. he trained someone to take his place as Big Boss to keep the people looking at the wrong person, while the true Big Boss set up another military nation called Outer Haven. If you're confused, don't feel bad. Metal Gear Solid is a very confusing game series. But let's move on to something a little more simple. A little more simple. Number 2. Roronoa Zoro, the vice captain of the Straw Hat crew. One of the 12 of the worst generation. Badass supreme. Zoro is a proven force of nature that those who stand in his way are doomed, and those who try to hurt his friends are dead. Part of what makes Zoro such a badass is that we get to see him grow and to overcome massive odds and physical punishment. Zoro doesn't take into account how badly his body is hurt if he's fighting. He'll push beyond what others can endure. If you need a story arc for reference of his badassery, watch the Thriller Bark arc. I'll give you the end result. After a long and damaging battle against Moria, Zoro takes all the pain and damage Luffy endured to save Luffy's life. And he takes it like a true badass and doesn't even flinch. Not only that, when facing off against Dracula Mihawk, after his swords were shattered, instead of admitting defeat, he turned to face Mihawk to take his next attack head on without blocking. Why? Said it before, badasses do things their way. The hell with the consequences. However, what would happen if you put brains, brawn, and charisma together in a badass? Well, before we get to him, honorable mentions. Neptune. I honestly want to put Neptune on the list. She's a badass when she wants to be. However, she's part of a game series that's a little bit of a parody of the modern JRPGs. Sadly, taking her off the list. Chris Redfield. Mr. Redfield has survived the entire Resident Evil franchise. Treat that as truly that of a badass. However, he doesn't have much of a tactical role. He's more than not just a soldier. Heather. Out of all the protagonists in the Silent Hill series, Heather goes through Silent Hill 3 and goes through the most shit of all the other Silent Hills. And she's a badass and kills a god at the end of the game. However, that's really her crowning achievement. Surviving Silent Hill as a second, and being snarky as a third. At this point, I've come to realize that Serdan, Zero, and Zoro are all awesome sword wielders. But sadly, they are all outclassed by Number 1. Cassius Bright. For those of you who subscribe to my channel may have seen any of my playthrough of the Legend of Heroes games, and in all of them after the first game, I always refer to Cassius as the do-all, end-all badass in the games, even in the entire history of badasses. Cassius was first introduced to us as a loving father to Estelle Bright, his daughter. We're informed that Cassius is more than just a nice guy. He was a tactical genius when he was in the army. He saved his kingdom of Liberl from the attacking empire of Erebonia. Here's a comparison of size between Liberl, a land of peace, and Erebonia, a military nation. He, along with 2 others, spearheaded Liberl's counteroffensive and defeated the Empire's invading forces. From that, he left the army to become a bracer, to help people across the land, beyond all borders. Cassius became known throughout all of Zemeria as a true badass, making the world start to take aim at him because he was doing so much good. One of Cassius's shining moments of being a tactical badass as well as a badass fighter came when he accepted a request led him to a region in Erebonia. Remember that attacking military force that he defeated? Yeah, they're kind of still sore about that. We later find proof that the Erebonian Empire during this time was actively trying to eliminate Cassius when he was in their homeland. But with Cassius's tactical cunning, and he was not only able to survive, but free the captured people as well. After that win, an Erebonia moved Cassius to the top of their eliminate at all costs list. In addition to that, after he came back home from that mission, he went back to the military of Liberal. Another moment of him shining in the military was he went so far as forcing another invading Erebonian military division into a stalemate with just one ship against their division of tanks. If that weren't enough for you, he also makes 2 dramatic appearances, further cementing the fact that he is used as a Deus Ex Cassius. At the end of the first Trails in the Sky game, he appears out of nowhere and practically destroys an ancient machine into a near-destroyed state, allowing the main characters the honor of finishing it off. In the second game, he rides in on a motherfucking dragon to save his daughter and adopted son from falling during the collapse of an ancient flying citadel. That is why Cassius motherfucking Bright is the biggest badass of all time. So thank you everybody for sticking with me while I was doing the verbal equivalent of filleting these characters. So thank you everybody for watching. If you have anything you want to say, make some noise in the comments below, and thank you for staying weird.